You guys, I'm so excited because today I'm working on my first ever trouser sewing pattern. I finished making my basic block, so I'm gonna take that basic block and manipulate it into my dream design, and I'm over the moon. The overall concept that we're going for is dramatic, elegant, and wearable. The drama that I'm hoping for is going to be in the volume of the leg. I'm hoping for something voluminous enough that you can almost not tell if it's a pair of trousers or if it's a skirt. I also want a nice high rise that's fitted at the waist and has 2 pleats in the front. I'm going to do slanted pockets as well as belt loops because I absolutely love adding a belt to a pair of trousers, and then I don't think I'm going to do any pockets on the back side. The plan is for the front pockets to be deep enough that I can fit my phone in there and I can really casually put my hands in there as well, so there won't really be a need for back pockets. I also think that it'll help keep the backside looking nice and clean. For the belt loops, I'm thinking about doing pairs of belt loops at each section rather than doing a single belt loop at each section, which is standard. I like the way that it looks to have 2, so that's something that I'll toy around with in the design. I also want this trouser to be kissing the floor. I'm beyond excited to bring this to life as a pattern for you because this is something that I've wanted to make for a long time, and I don't know any sewing patterns that have been able to offer exactly what I want out of it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and hop into Illustrator so that I can start figuring out how I want to design these pants. So as you probably know, I'm in the 6th week of the pattern making course that I'm taking. The course is 12 weeks long and I've already learned so much. I'm especially excited about this trouser pattern because I feel like I'm at a place where I understand enough about how to use Illustrator as well as how to manipulate patterns that I can just run with my thoughts at this point. Previously, I could think up the design in my mind, but I wasn't quite sure where to start and how to execute it. But now I feel comfortable with getting started on my own, which feels really good. There are obviously still things for me to learn. I'm only in week 6 of this 12-week course. And for example, I feel really comfortable adding the pleats as well as adding volume to the pants, but I don't know how to draft a zipper fly yet. So anyways, all that to say that I'm feeling really proud of how far I've come and I'm ready to hop into making this trouser pattern. There are 2 ways that I'm thinking about manipulating the block to get to the result that I'm hoping for. The first way is to take the block and add volume to the leg and then go through and slash and spread so that I can open it up and create those pleats. The second way is for me to create the pleats and add the volume at the same time. So in the first example, I would create the pleats starting at the knee level, but in the second example, I would create the pleats starting at the ankle level, and I would basically just open the pattern by that much. I'm gonna play around in Illustrator and try both of those versions, and then I'll send it over to Victoria for her to review it and see what she thinks. So I've updated my pant block to add 2 pleats to the front panels, as well as adding a lot of volume to the legs. I also chatted with Victoria in the Discord group, and we decided that the best way to add volume through the leg at the front panel was to open up the dart from the hem rather than from the knee level. So I did all of that on Illustrator to the front panel, and then because I added 2 4-centimeter darts, that means I added a total of 16 centimeters to the hem. So in order to balance everything out, I also added 16 centimeters to the back panel by slashing and spreading it open. So what I'm going to do next is add seam allowances to the pattern pieces as well as true the pattern. Then after that, I'm going to draft pockets, a waistband, and belt loops. I also need to learn how to draft the fly, so I'm going to go back into the course and learn how to do that. I imagine that's going to take quite a bit of time where I'm essentially just tinkering around on my computer for a few hours. But then once that's done, Victoria actually already said I'm at a good point where if I want to, rather than creating a muslin, I can go straight into creating a wearable toile. I was seriously ecstatic when she told me that. She basically said that there's so much volume through the pant leg that I probably won't have any fit issues, especially considering that this pattern is being created from a block that already fits my body. I think that that's the best part about having a block that's made to measure for me. Once you learn how to properly manipulate a block to create the design that you're envisioning, you can go straight from your block to a wearable toile, and that's so cool. I already know what fabric I'm going to use because a few weeks ago I went to a sewing meetup where we all did a fabric swap, and I picked up some really perfect fabric to do a toile for this. I'll link a video so you can see all the fabric that I picked up from that swap, and I will see you when I'm ready to piece together my pattern. You guys, today is the day where I get to print and cut and sew my very first ever trouser pattern. I'm at a loss for words for how excited I am about this. I couldn't have fathomed making my own trouser pattern just 6 weeks ago, but here I am, ready to make my pants. This design has been living rent-free in my mind for so long now, and it finally gets to make its big debut. This, of course, is just my first draft of the pants, but I am making a wearable toile, so I'm hoping that it works out well. I have a feeling that it will just because it's based off of a block that already fits me well, but I'm a little worried about how much volume I put in the legs. I think it's gonna get the design to where I want it to be visually, but I'll be interested to see how wearable they actually are, considering they're gonna be very, very voluminous around the ankles. It might feel similar to wearing a maxi skirt, and in that case it would be cool, but if I end up feeling like I'm tripping over each side of the leg, it's not gonna function. And I'm all about making functional garments. One of the words that was like a guiding word in this design for me was wearable, so I definitely need to make sure that it functions and it wears fine for just an average day. I worked really hard yesterday to get the pattern to a place where I could print it this morning so that I could just print and sew all day, and I'm really glad that I did that because I had time to sleep on it and think about the construction and all of the steps that I'm gonna take. I also printed out this very cute little mock-up. I basically took the pattern and I scaled it down so that it fits onto one page. I also made some notes on it this morning because, like I said, I had time to sleep on it and kind of think about the construction. And as I was thinking about the construction, I decided that I wanted to do the waistband differently than I had originally planned. You can see that the waistband down here is just folded over and it's a straight waistband. I think instead I want the waistband to be two separate pieces so that the belt loops can fit inside of the waistband, because I think it'll just be a nicer finish. I also want to make the seam allowances on the inside waistband longer. That way I can bias bind it and then I can stitch in the ditch from the front side, and hopefully everything will look absolutely beautiful. I was also considering adding seam allowances to the outer seams as well as like the respective pocket pieces, but I actually decided that I don't need to do that because if it ends up being a tiny bit too small for some reason, then I can just open up the pleats or I can open up the darts in the back. I was thinking about adding the seam allowances just as a precautionary measure, but I don't think it's actually necessary. So with that being said, if I had chosen to add seam allowances to the pattern, which I can do later if I need to, it would just take up a bit of time this morning, and I'm really, really excited to get sewing, so I'm gonna go ahead and print this pattern now. So while that was printing, I took my little note sheet and I made more notes on the back side. These notes are about the order of construction that I plan to do. I basically just conceptualized how I would construct the pattern and I wrote it out step by step to make sure that I'm doing it in an order that makes sense. If I decide for some reason that I don't like the order of construction that I created, I can always just change it, but it'll be nice for me to have these notes to go back to. Also, as I was printing out the pattern, I got some feedback from Victoria. I sent her the files last night so that she could look at them before I printed, but of course I already printed them because I woke up early so that I could start working on this because I'm really excited about it. There was one minor change that she suggested that I make. Basically at the side seam there was a little bit too much of a bump. The bump would make sense at that point if I was making a fitted garment, but because I have these big pleats, I don't need that extra bump to account for my hips because I have so much ease in the leg and like throughout the, you know, pleat crotch area. So yeah, it's a minor change. I already made the change in Illustrator, but because I had printed this pattern already, I decided that I was just gonna draw in the change. This pattern is like somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 pieces of paper, so I wasn't about to reprint it if I didn't have to. And yeah, the change is super minor, so I'm not gonna reprint this pattern. After I make this wearable toile, I do expect that there will be at least some changes that need to be made to the pattern anyways, so I can make those changes and then have it reprinted again with all of the changes encompassed in the next print. Hopefully it'll just be a lot more efficient this way. I used to not really enjoy piecing together patterns, but now that I've been doing so much of it recently, I'm starting to enjoy the process a lot more. In some way it kind of feels therapeutic and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I think there's also some extra sort of satisfaction that comes with making and printing your own pattern, because obviously there's a lot of like work and care involved in doing this. So it feels super rewarding to be able to make your own pattern. It's also a lot easier at this stage to piece together my own pattern and to cut it out because this isn't graded yet, so it's made to just fit me, which means I don't have to like look at a ton of lines and then try to figure out what my size is and cut it out the way you would if you just, you know, purchased a pattern from someone. Sometimes patterns come layered, which means that you can take away the layers that you don't need and only use the size or sizes that you want. However, when I print patterns, I don't prefer to print them without the layers. I like to have all of the layers, and then I retrace the size that I want. Although it isn't particularly efficient, I think it's better for the long term. Our sizes, you know, they fluctuate over time, and so it's possible that in the future I'll want to reuse the same pattern, but I'll need different sizes than the time that I cut it out in the first place. So if I just keep the original pattern intact with all of the layers, then I won't have to reprint it again, which partially saves on resources, but ultimately it also saves on time. It can also be really nice for storage because the pieces that are in the size that you need are all traced off onto one big piece of paper rather than having all of these tiny pieces of paper all cut up. I don't know, maybe I'm not making any sense to you, but that's just my personal preference. I think it's better for the longevity of the pattern and also like so that you're just gracious with your body and the way that it changes over time. We might get bigger, we might get smaller, and it's all okay. We're just at different stages of life sometimes. I know that throughout COVID, my appearance definitely changed, and I'm not upset at the way that it changed per se, but it can be kind of a bummer when potentially you cut out a size of a pattern and that size is not your size anymore, whether that's bigger or smaller. I know that I had that experience with the Dawn jeans because the Dawn jeans were a pair of jeans that I made at the very beginning of my sewing journey. And so I didn't really have any processes in place that I preferred. So I just cut out the size that I needed. And then, you know, post-COVID, I decided I wanted to make those jeans again. I was like, well, I am definitely not that size anymore. So I ended up needing to change that, and it's okay. I just reprinted the pattern, but I could have saved a step, and probably a little bit of heartache could have been saved as well if I had just printed the pattern as a whole and not cut it up in the first place. With that being said though, we all like to do different things, and that's totally okay. If the way that I do things is not your preference, no sweat off my back. I don't really care. But I do like to just offer my perspective because maybe you do feel like that's potentially the way that you would like to do your patterns moving forward. It's also one of those things that you can experiment with. Maybe you decide after doing it for the first time the way that I do it that it just is too time intensive to retrace out those pattern pieces and you would prefer to cut it out. I know a lot of people who are like that, and that's awesome, and I'm happy for them. Like I said, I've also started to enjoy different pieces of the process that might have felt tedious before. One of those things being tracing out my patterns. So I actually find joy in doing that the same way I find joy in sewing up a garment. So yeah, for me, I think it's partially also about just like slowing down a little bit. In the past few years that I've been sewing, I've sewn a lot of garments. I used to own my own business and I would sew clothes for people full time. So that just means that I have sewn a lot of clothes. And it's nice to have the opportunity to slow it down now and really just focus on me and the clothes that I want to make for myself and the fit of the garments and all these things. And also, at this stage, I'm really slowing it down because I'm taking the time to make my own garments like from scratch and digitizing them, which I didn't know how to do before. It's like a whole new learning process than flat patterning. So yeah. All that to say that I'm really enjoying this process and I'm so happy with where I'm at right now. Also, I realized that I was going through a lot of tape because I'm making so many paper patterns right now, and I don't know why it didn't dawn upon me that there are reusable tape dispensers. So I just ordered a reusable tape dispenser and I'm excited that should be coming soon. It was supposed to arrive on Monday, but it did not. And that's okay. I have one last roll of tape to use before hopefully that one comes very soon. And then, yeah, maybe eventually I'll get a projector because wow, this is, it's very resource intensive to be printing out all of these pages and putting them together. But with that being said, projectors come with their own set of issues. So we'll see. I am not fully sold on the projector situation. I've seen a lot of people have issues with it, but who knows? I might convert someday. I certainly do not have the financial resources to convert at this point though. So for now, paper patterns and reusable tape dispensers it is. Ooh, I'm getting really excited seeing these wide legs. Okay, I'm gonna finish piecing together this pattern and stop blabbering. And when it's all pieced together, I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like and show you that adjustment that I'm gonna make to the side seam that Victoria and I just chatted about in the Discord. So I'll see you in a second. So my pattern is really big and it's already fitting almost the entire width of my 5-foot table, which means I'm definitely not going to be able to fit the entire pattern on one table. So with that being said, the adjustment that I need to make to the pattern, I'm just going to show you on my tiny scaled down version because that just is going to be easier for you to see. But basically right here on the pattern, there's a little bump out here, and that was originally for the hip to fit into, but because I've got so much width through here because of these two pleats, I'm gonna straighten this out because there's no need for that bump anymore. And also this side is pretty straight, so when they get attached together, this bump will be really noticeable. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw that in so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's a very slight change. So it might be hard to tell, but this is the new line here. It just came in a little bit and is quite straight. I'm also gonna have to adjust the pocket pieces accordingly, but it should be pretty easy. Although it is just a slight adjustment on the pattern, it would have been pretty visible when you sew up the side seam if they're not both straight. One is straight and one is bumped. It'll just like make some weird wonkiness happening in the hip area. So yeah, I'm just gonna draw on the pattern to adjust that. Like I said before, I've already adjusted it in Illustrator. It was pretty fast. I just didn't want to reprint the entire pattern since it was already printed. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish piecing together this pattern and then I will show you the fabric that we're using. Okay, all of the pattern pieces are prepped and this is the fabric I'm planning to use. I picked it up from the LA Fabric Swap. It says it's mauve and I don't know. I can't tell if it's pink or if it's purple. I think it's leaning more towards purple, which I'm excited about because I am not a pink wearer, but I'm definitely a purple wearer. So anyways, we'll see. I'm going to cut these out and then hopefully I like the color of them on my body. If I don't, I can gift them to my sister, or I could also potentially dye the fabric. I've never dyed fabric before, so that would be an adventure in and of itself. But anyways, I'm gonna start by cutting up this fabric and getting to sewing. Okay, I think it might actually need a good press first, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Starting to worry that this isn't gonna fit. And I have 4 yards of this fabric. But we will see. I'm crossing my fingers, okay? So fat. So I'm thinking that maybe instead of doing a double folded hem at the bottom, I could do a single folded hem, and that'll give me the tiny bit of extra length that I think that I need in order to make this work. So I've been really racking my brain about how I'm gonna cut this fabric out and also why these pattern pieces aren't fitting on the width of fabric that I thought I had. So I took out my measuring stick, and whoever measured this, the person who brought it to the fabric swap to give away, did not measure correctly. They measured 4 yards, I'm pretty sure, and this is 100% it's 2 yards. Yeah, there's only 2 yards here, not 4 yards. So yeah, that makes a lot more sense why I'm having such a difficult time getting these pattern pieces to fit. I thought I was working with 4 yards and I'm most certainly not. I'm working with half of that. So I'm gonna rack my brain for a little bit longer, but thinking it's gonna come down to 2 options here. I'm either going to have to just completely use a different fabric, or I'm going to have to break up the waistband into multiple pieces, because the issue that I'm having is I don't have enough length for the waistband if I put both of the pant pattern pieces down. So let me think for a little bit and then I'll figure out what we're gonna do about that. Okay, the decision has been made. I am going to use this fabric, and the reason I'm choosing to do that is because 1, I'm not totally sure if I'm gonna love the way that this color is on my body, and 2, this is just a toile, so it is okay if I have to piece together the waistband, and I think I can just make it work so that I match up the side seams with where like the waistband is cut into different pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It's gonna take a little bit of shifting around, and I also think that I'm probably going to wait to cut the waistband until the pants are pretty much constructed, because then I'll be able to better visualize how big those pieces need to be. Okay, I'm gonna get cutting. Check this baby out, so pretty. This is gonna be the belt loops, and they're already looking so nice. I put some interfacing in them so that it would be extra sturdy, and I'm very happy with it. Yay! I just finished one of the front pant pieces and it is gorgeous. It's exactly what I was hoping for, and I'm so excited. Like, look at how beautiful this is. Got those 2 nice pleats as well as that slanty pocket. She's so good. Okay, enough gawking, back to sewing. Please feel free to enjoy this very cute zipper fly with me. I am so proud. Also, look at this cute little bar tack. You guys, my pants are done. I'm wearing them right now and they're amazing. They're everything that I ever dreamed of, and I can't believe that I brought them to life. I worked super hard the other day to finish them all in one day, and it took quite a bit of time from the time I woke up basically to the time I went to bed, but I'm so grateful that I got it all done in one day, because yesterday I was able to wear them for the entire day and kind of test them out, see how I feel about it, and I love them. There are a few things that I need to change, but I think they're pretty minor. I'm still figuring out what the best way is to go about making that change. So I did message Victoria in the Discord. I sent her a video of what everything looks like on me, and I'll go over what I talked about with you right now. Okay, I'm gonna take my belt off so you can see kind of how everything is lying, and I'm actually also gonna take my shoes off just so you can kind of get a visualization of what it looks like without any extra accessories. And I'm gonna push the camera back as far as I can so that you can see everything, but you might not be able to see my face. So sorry about that, but you can still hear my voice. Okay, so it turns out it's better if you're just sideways because then you can see my whole body. So first off, what I notice is how the pants touch the floor. I basically want them to kiss the floor. I don't want there to be a puddle like there is right now. And granted, it's a small puddle and it's totally fine when I'm wearing shoes, but that's probably because my shoes have a little bit of height to them, and if I had a shoe that didn't have height, I wouldn't want to be dragging on the floor. So with that being said, the reason I think that they're touching the ground is actually because of the way that the waistband is sitting. And if I fix the waistband, I think the length will actually be okay. So what you'll probably notice is that right here, the waistband is curving down a little bit. It kind of does this like scoop here. If I were to bring this so that everything is level, so that it's like level with the back and level with the front, then the hem looks a lot better, and that's when it's kissing the floor like it should be. So my thoughts here are two things. One is that if I were to pinch out this extra material that's on the sides here, then that would help with the length issue and it would make the waistband level. The second option is me taking out this same amount from the waistband instead of the side seams or the back center seam. What that would look like is creating a curved waistband instead of a straight waistband. That way the length around the bottom of the waistband would stay the same, but the curve would cause the top of the waistband to actually be smaller and hug the body better. I have a tutorial on how to make a curved waistband out of a straight waistband, so I'll link that for you if you're interested in kind of understanding how it functions. But other than that, I'm so happy. I love where the pleats are. I love how big and voluminous the legs are while still being wearable and functional for an everyday basis. I'm really happy with how the pockets turned out. These pockets are actually white on the inside, but they have a pocket facing on this side and on this side. I also really like the darts that are back here. I've found that I've had issues with darts in the past, and that's because the dart has been so big that it's been really hard to sew it without making it super pointy. I don't want pointy darts on my butt, and so these darts are small enough that it's really easy to make them smooth and not super pointy. What else? So let me take the pants off now so you can see some of the insides, because I'm also really proud of how the insides came out. Okay, so you'll notice that when the fly is closed, everything is nice and clean. You can't see any buttons or fastenings on the front, and that's because the fastenings are on the inside of the waistband. So from the back side here, you'll see that there's a button, and then from the front side, if you open it up, there are also clasps. So basically you zip it up, then you put on the button, and then you add the clasps, and that's what makes it nice and clean and also fitting well around the waist. I personally really love this method because I think it looks clean and it fits well. Now for the zipper, I just used the zipper that I had on hand, which was a jeans zipper, and I definitely won't be doing that in the future, but again, this was a toile, so it was kind of okay that I used a jeans zipper. The jeans zipper functions fine and is super durable for the long term, but when you're sitting, it bubbles a little bit more because there's more structure in the zipper than if you were to do like a normal zipper. I did pick up more zippers so that the future renditions of this pant won't have that weird bubbling issue. Okay, let me turn these inside out. Get them zipped up again. Okay, here's what they look like from the inside. The pockets are French seamed, so they're nice and clean, and pretty much everything inside this looks really clean to me. I'm thinking that I might construct the waistband differently, but that decision will be made once I figure out if I'm doing a curved waistband or a straight waistband. And then All the seams on the inside here are pressed open, and that looks really nice to me, and it also falls really nice on the body. And then at the hem here, I had originally done 2 big cuffs for the pattern, but then when I was cutting everything out, having that much extra fabric wasn't possible with the amount of yardage that I had. And I actually like the way that this turned out. I just serged it and I folded it under and top stitched. I think what I'll do to change the pattern is still make it like a double cuffed hem, but the cuff won't be the full width of this cuff. It'll basically just be like 1 centimeter folded under, and then this 2 inches folded under, pressed and top stitched. This is what the back side looks like. Again, everything looks really nice and clean to me, and overall I'm just so happy and proud of these. Now, while there are a few minor things that I'm going to change on this for the official pattern, I'm super happy with how they turned out. I'm definitely going to be wearing these a lot. I already wore them all day yesterday, and I started the day off by wearing them. They're very comfortable because there's a lot of ease in the crotch, and the only part that's fitted is at the waist. I also feel like they fall off the bum really nicely. They don't feel too tight, but they are also still very flattering. I think the next course of action is just to figure out those slight changes that I'm going to make and adjust them in Illustrator, and then they're probably ready to be graded and tested, which is so exciting. Oh, and I also need to name them. I was thinking something along the lines of being related to boba because this color is very taro colored, and also when I was wearing them yesterday, I was visiting my little sister and we went and got boba, and she jokingly spit a boba out of her straw from all the way across the driveway, and she wasn't aiming for me, but it did hit my pants and it stuck to my pants, which I thought was kind of funny. So taro, boba is kind of where my mind is at in terms of what we're gonna name this. I posted about that on Instagram, and one of you guys messaged me and said it maybe should be called the tapioca trousers, and I kind of love that. So for now, I'm going with tapioca trousers, but I'm not officially calling them the tapioca trousers. So if you have any names that you think would be good for these, please leave them down below. I'm open to all suggestions. And yeah, I would love if you guys were part of this process between helping me name it and testing it for me. Oh man, I'm so freaking excited. So anyways, I'm gonna get to that. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one.